And we're back, season 2 for the Blacklights Podcast. It's your girl, LaShae Boone-McCrae, Director of Strategic Accounts for RG Berry, and I'm here with my co-host,
Dion Walcott, the Director of Partnerships for Pencil Lewis College, and also the founder of Marked. Super excited to get started on this season 2.
Yes, and we could not do it without having this wonderful guest right beside us. We have Alexander John in the building.
Yes, sir.
That's where the claps come in. Extra noise comes in.
Jink tramps.
Super excited to have him. So he has lended his design and creative direction talents to brands like Adidas, Nike, Puma, and Reebok, while superstars like Beyonce, Jay-Z, Usher, Busta Rhymes, and others have worn his custom hand-painted and engraved footwear. Light work, if I must say. But really, take us back to day one, to young Alexander John, and take us through your journey. How did you get to this point?
For me, first of all, glad to be here, y'all. This is
awesome.
It's a good feeling. It's my people, Dion. It's my people. I feel like you're my sister.
I know, I'm telling you.
But for day one for the young Alexander John, he was a kid who was constantly inquisitive about everything because there was such a big lack. My family, I'm the third of 10.
Oh my goodness.
So,
very big family.
Yeah, cool sneakers. It wasn't coming my way unless we went to a thrift store, stuff like that. But we didn't have it, and I didn't stress my mom about it. But what happened was I ended up getting put on punishment, and I figured out I could draw. Like while I was in my room, like in solitary confinement. I was
Find something to do.
I found powers. So I was in my room. I had this little remote control car, and I loved the way the graphic looked on it. So then I redrew the graphic, and I felt like I unlocked something. I was like, this is a new power. So that's how I started it. And from there, I started taking like unorthodox methods like crayons to denim. And so I started drawing on my jeans, and then I'll go to school, and then the kids would be like, man, those shoes are dope, or that shirt is cool. And I realized I can bring value to stuff. So I don't have to be this person that's constantly like, I need to have the Nikes. I need to have the Deion Sanders, which at the time the Deion Sanders was crazy.
Yes.
But I can bring value to things that were blank. And so that's my early years were made up of creating opportunity and creating value through what I didn't have and helping other people to see that. And so I was a young hustler, I was, everybody comes to Atlanta, they talk about the water boys, and how they hustle. I was the water boys before the water boys. Yeah. I was helping people to their car with their groceries in a respectable way. But I just really felt like it was my job to find a way, that was early years for me was about finding a way,
So how did you know though, so you understood you could draw, you definitely had blank canvases as kind of just, what you played with and designed and created. But how did you know that you could put those designs and it become something for someone that they also see the value that you saw?
So I would say that part came later. I got into retail at 16, and I just started seeing so many clothing brands come through. As I progress over the years, which a lot of people don't know, I have like 20 plus years in retail, working as a visual merchandiser, as a buyer, salesperson. And so I would go to these different shows and I would feel inspired. And I'll tell you the brand that inspired me the most. I think I was maybe 20, I had to be like 21, and Mesquite dropped. Mm-hmm. And if you know Mesquite, they were doing these hand-painted original shirts. Mm-hmm. It was random patterns, but at the same time, it was intentional. And I saw them selling these shirts $80, $125 a pop, each one of them one of ones. And I was like, this is crazy. And so I didn't want to jack what they were doing, but I felt like since they're using silkscreen ink, how about I approach this in my own way? So I took a T-shirt, and my niche was taking the sneakers and putting it on a shirt, and I would trace the shape of it. And then I would do your actual size. So this is like your actual, like, and I got some pictures of this from back in the day. So it would be like all the new Jordans that was coming out, I had a shirt for it. And so I started selling these shirts out of this store that I was working at.
So they had a fit.
They had a fit.
Wow.
So prom, was crazy, all the kids. And I started doing, I was the first cat, and I will say this, New Era could call me if they want to. But I was the first cat to do the Yankee pinstripe hat.
Okay.
I did it by hand, and
the original.
The salesperson came in. I took the blue hat and I pinstriped it with dots using the acrylic paint. So that's when I started realizing, like, you can make money as an artist and a designer if you're really intentional about creating or solving a problem or creating something that somebody else could then walk out and say, man, that looks dope on you. And now they feel the same way they feel about polo and all these other things. So that's what it was for me. Like, retail taught me that. And then Mesquite was a brand that kind of like opened that door. And from there, I went on to do like a fashion show at a university. It's always these universities giving me opportunities.
They always give you pencil in this bit.
Right, exactly. So I did my first fashion show, and this is when I knew it was crazy. So me and this guy, we started a brand called Level Clothing. It's not a style, it's a level. That's what it was just telling everybody. So we started this brand. It was all hand painted stuff. We were using this technique, but we were really making it like fashion. We weren't just, scribbling and things like that. And we did this show with it was Akron University, and the IOTAs invited us in. So I'm like, I'm gonna take this opportunity. It's free. They're gonna give us a stage. Man, we put together a show, and they put us first. When I tell you, like, we shut down the show. Like, by the time my last person walked, they thought the show was over. Everybody came out into the hallway. They were like, this show is over. Like, we're done. They're like, no, come back in here. The show was done.
Yeah.
And me and him look at each other like,
we got something. You got
yeah.
something, for sure.
So he went on to become a tattoo artist. I stayed with retail and really didn't go into sneakers. I got to tell you the story about that because that's a whole nother story because I was doing clothing.
Yeah.
Sneakers wasn't even my thing.
Wow.
I didn't even start off drawing sneakers as a kid. Everybody has their sneaker story. They're like, man, I drew sneakers as a kid. I wasn't that guy.
That wasn't you.
Nah, I was drawing butterflies and roses for the girls. Like, I need action. So butterflies and roses. Sneakers ain't taking me nowhere.
That's how you break the conversation.
Right,
yes, sir.
exactly. So that's what I was on. And I used to be making these little privacy door knockers for all the kids. I sell them 50 cents. Like, now your parents can't come in your room. You get this privacy door knocker. So I was a little salesperson. But anyway, but I never drew sneakers as a kid. And to be honest with you, my first bout with sneakers, I was super embarrassed. I did a sneaker for a store called City Blue that was in Cleveland. And they had this hookup paint. And that was my first encounter. And it was like in a bottle. It was weird, nail polish type, And they're like, yeah, take these shoes and you could actually customize them, bring them back, and then we'll sell them to our clients because they had all the dope boys coming in the store. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is going to work. Man, I took them home, and one of the things that I realized about myself in that moment was that I was overly ambitious, about the idea, but didn't know how to execute. So I had never painted a shoe before. So their colors were royal blue, yellow, like canary yellow, and green. And so these are all, if anybody customizes, or anybody that's listening to this podcast right now customizes, those are the funkiest colors ever to work with. Because with yellow, you got to paint white underneath. With green, you got to do at least like 9 coats unless you're using airbrush. And blue, royal blue is the same. It doesn't layer on properly unless you put a layer in between. And so I was struggling. I took these shoes. I was working on them for maybe like 3 weeks. And I just never gave them back to the owner of the store. And I had to work in the mall with this guy.
Yeah.
So I'm walking past his store like, fast every time. He's like, hey, where the shoes? Man, I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So this was my first time trying custom sneakers. So I'm like, I'm going to just stick to the clothes. I'm going to stick to the clothes. And that was it.
So, well, clearly we know
Right.
you now design sneakers.
Right.
So how did you get over that hump?
So the same guy I did the fashion show with at Akron University, I called him to do a gig for a client of mine. I'm in visual merchandising. I'm setting up stores now. I start my little business. You know, if you existing or you a new store, I'm going to come set your store up and make it pop.
Mm-hmm.
So the client that I had was on a downturn of the Mitchell & Ness trend. You know, Jay-Z said I'm 40 plus, you know, jerseys, button ups. Man, Cleveland was just like, we not doing it no more. So he's like, can you help me, you know, sell these jerseys? So I told him, I said, you know what? I got an idea. Light bulb went off. My boy does custom sneakers. Let's get the Jim Brown jersey. Let's get, you know, the Ron Harper jersey in the window, and then we do the Cavs sneaker, and we do the Brown sneaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called my boy. I'm like, Nick, you know, I got an opportunity for you. You'll be able to sell out of a store because you currently don't have one. And then this guy will be able to get, you know, people in his store based off of this pull through this visual merchandising I'm going to do. He said, sounds good. 3 days maybe, or maybe the week of opening, Nick hits me like, man, I don't think it's going to work. I'm good. You know, I'm like, no, bro. He's like, nah, seriously, I just don't got the time. And he's an intricate artist. If you know Nick, he's one of the best tattoo artists right now.
Okay.
So he was just like, no, I'm not doing it. And I was just like, all right, cool. I told the guy, I'm like, well, my guy's not gonna do it. And he's like bummed out. He's like, you sold me on this. Like, he's like, man, I don't even know what to do. He's stressing out. You know, he had borrowed money from his parents to open up this store, and you know, he had failed previously. He started telling me all the failure that he had. So I'm like, I gotta make this work.
Yeah.
So he's like, can you do it? And I'm like, oh man. My mind flashed back. You know that So Raven moment where her mind goes back. My mind flashed back to that moment of that failure, that shoe that's probably still sitting in my house at the time that I never completed.
Right.
And instead of thinking about it like that, I thought about it as, this is a moment where God is putting something in front of me that's going to help feed my family. Because to me, sometimes you pray for things and it doesn't come in the form that you may necessarily think it should be in, but this is it. It's what you prayed for, but you got to go through this task first.
And it looks different.
Exactly. So I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to take these shoes and I'm going to pray about it. That's literally what I told him. So I took the shoes home. I'm looking at these shoes. Dion, I ain't never painted a shoe. I'm scared because I got to put graphics on it. I don't even know how to approach it. I don't airbrush, you know. But what I did after prayer, it was like God gave me this idea. How about I engrave the shoe first, draw on the shoe, then engrave the shoe using a wood burning technique, and then paint, you know, over it. Now I feel more comfortable. I don't have to worry about these lines and shaky hands.
Right.
Man, I did that. I brought the shoes back. We sold 30,000. We sold out that day, but we sold 30,000, you know, in custom sneakers the first month.
Wow.
In my 4th month of doing this, the guy decided to just open up another store just for sneakers. So I had the first sneaker boutique in Cleveland.
Wow.
You know, and
That's
so
big.
that's how it started taking off. And when I tell you, we were in a mall where the Cavaliers, all of the sports teams were either at the Renaissance or the Ritz. So you've been to Cleveland, Tower City.
Yes, sir.
And so they have the contracts for MLB, and so all the players are there. The marketing manager for the Ritz came down and saw the store that we had, and she said, this is where I want everybody to be brought, so bring them here. They were even trying to do a collab with us. But it was just crazy to see that if I would have allowed fear at that moment to take over and would have never said, you know, I'm going to pray about it and let God do something about it, I wouldn't even be talking to y'all right now.
No, that's real.
This moment wouldn't even be happening, you know? So that's how I got into sneakers, you know? It was a very happy mistake.
Yeah.
And so I tell people all the time, you know, to me, success doesn't come just when you're passionate about something. I think it's about becoming passionate about something that is going to change your life and work for you. And so I started becoming passionate about things that work versus it being, oh, no, I don't do that. Well, I don't do it because I didn't research it. I don't do it because I haven't got the knowledge. But what if I get the knowledge? could I add this? And so that's what my life became then. It's like, let me stop saying what I don't do and start saying what I can do and doing the research.
For sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cleveland a couple times. That's where we met about 4 years ago. Time flies. It's crazy.
Right.
Since I've been in Detroit, what I've realized, Midwest has a different taste and tone that I never really got to experience.
Right.
I got it through you. We kind of kept in contact. I'm from a West Indian background, and there's an intersection between Midwest and West Indian that a lot of people don't really pay attention to.
Absolutely.
But going back to Cleveland, like, how does that help kind of shape all the things you've done? Because you show love to Cleveland a lot. So maybe just speak on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about it because I was born in Louisiana, but my dad was in the service, so that's why I was born there. So I was born in a small, like, Army tent, Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
So I can't even technically claim Louisiana all like that.
Right.
But I did grow up there as well. I went to school there. But what I would love to say about Cleveland and what's the truth about Cleveland is that Cleveland is where I discovered Alexander John. Like, I was my other names in these other cities.
Yeah.
I was hiding behind names as an artist at certain times, but I became Alexander John there. And it started in elementary school. I had an art teacher named Miss Wash, and she kept me after school for an after-school program, and she said, "You're talented. I'm going to put your stuff in these programs." So I find myself, like, in the Plain Dealer, which was the paper at the time. We're doing a dinner at the Plain Dealer. And, my mom had just had another baby, so she wasn't able to show up. So I'm the kid in the picture that's by myself, but I'm winning this award from the city for this project that I did. And so Cleveland was a place where I felt like God strategically lined up teachers, certain friends that I had to say, no, you're this, you're that. And I believe that words are very powerful, especially just me having a spiritual background. Faith is definitely at the core of what I do. And when you have people who have faith in you, like, it just puts that battery in your back. When you don't got no money, you can go off words. So to me, like, a lot of artists are living off of affirmation, So I got a lot of that in Cleveland, and a lot of opportunity to do crazy things like paint inside of a club. I had a guy just bring me in his office, and I did all the artwork on the walls. He just go crazy, and paying me to do these things. And I realized this was, Cleveland is what made me who I am. I discovered that I would be doing this. I'm like, I grew out the locks there.
Yeah. And you also met your wife there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, we have to bring the missus up because I know she's truly, truly important to you and been pivotal in even your journey within, your professional journey.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about her and how she, supports you.
7 years old is when I met her. And she chose me first. Which
Okay.
But I liked her big sister, though.
That's how us Midwest women do. We choose. We lock in.
So I didn't know she was choosing me. So what I did, we going back to those butterflies and roses.
Okay.
I drew some butterflies for her sister, her big sister. I'm like, so she said she was crushed. But we grew up together, being friends, the best of friends. And, I ended up at the age of 22 having a kid. We weren't together at the time. She had a kid. I had a kid. And I told God, I was like, man, I'm out of line. Like, I done created a life. Like, and I'm not doing nothing with mine. Like, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So it was like I apologized to God, and I was like, okay, I need you to send me somebody, though, because I continually get approached.
Right.
Like, I would keep on making bad decisions.
Yeah.
So he gave me the name. He's like, Crystal Strickland. I'm like, oh, I thought about it. I was like, oh, they say you got to be friends first. Like, you got to. And I just realized, like, she was that one, from the beginning. She was the person I kept on trying to find in other states. You know how you have a type.
Yeah.
She's that type. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, she's the one. So I told my mom, and it's funny because I was a little hobo at the time. I ain't had nowhere to live. I had like a trash bag with my clothes in it.
Oh.
I packed it up. I'm like, Mom, I'm about to go to Cleveland. She's like, what you going to Cleveland for? I'm like, I'm about to find Crystal.
Oh,
And she's like, you don't know what that girl doing with her life? I was like, I don't know, but I feel like God told me that this is the one, though. So I ended up going to Cleveland on a whim. And you always got that one cousin that's the eyes to the streets. So
Yes.
that's my
I
cousin.
know where she is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, but is she looking good though? He's like, she still look good. I was like, but did she show up to church? He's like, she don't go to church no more. So I was like, all right, God, that's the test. I was like, I'm gonna go to church, and if she show up to church, then she for me. And I was like, nah. If I go to church and then she show up to church, and she's single, then she for me.
Okay.
That means you really sent me here for this.
Right.
So I go to church. I see her sister. I don't see her. I see everybody except for her. And it's about 11 o'clock service. I'm like, okay, this is wrapping up. Preach about to preach. I'm like, she ain't coming, so I'm going to walk out. As soon as I go to walk out, she walks in the door.
Wow.
And it was like one of the movie moments where it was just looking at each other. I'm like, hey. She's like, hey. And so I'm like, I didn't tell her what I was there for. We just talking. And then at the end of the conversation, she's like, oh, I'm single now, so, take my number.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
all
like, my heart started
Check.
beating. I'm like,
Check.
Divine. All divine.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though. Looks are great. We're compatible. I love the way she looks. But what I didn't know was that this was the woman that was going to make me transform into a man. Because at the time, remember, I got a trash bag. You know what I'm saying? With all my stuff in it.
Right.
I'm a boy. I don't got no, no
What
license. I don't have no job,
What you doing with that?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So she got her stuff. But no, she got a car. She got an apartment. Her and her son living good. And I'm like, man. And she took me at my lowest. And was like, I can work with that, So I see a lot of stuff online all the time where these women are talking about what a dude got to come with and everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that the woman was designed to make us better. It's just the function. Like, I got better. And then even in my artistry, just fast forwarding to what made this leap made me go from, being a PayPal artist to, I get my transactions with the bank now and it's wires.
Yeah.
60 to 90.
Listen, I'm telling you, right, it's a whole different world, But it was her coming to the table.
Yeah.
Saying, how can I help you? And my wife, she's creative, but she's not an artist, And so her coming to the table and saying, she saw me, I had shoes lined up, I had just did a drop that was going viral. I had sheiks in Abu Dhabi hitting me up. Like, it was crazy. I did an NMD shoe at the time and they were popping, but I was overwhelmed with sales, y'all. It was shoes everywhere. She said, how can I help you? That's when things changed. Because now I felt like I had a family unit, and then we started bringing on our adult sons as we did this. And then I was like, man, we're building Noah's Ark.
Absolutely.
Legacy talk.
Yeah. It's so, if you knew the story of Noah, it was him and his family, but other people helped them that could have got on the boat. They chose not to get on the boat, but all these other animals got on the boat. But, so I felt like that. I felt like we're building something now that other people can be a part of if they choose to. But they don't have to stay with us because they're creatives too. But I just felt like it was more purpose in our family function.
That's dope.
And
That's dope.
we're all creative. She does event planning, and she does project management. So she's my COO.
Love it.
And she's on my calls, handling the tough questions sometimes that I don't ask because I'm caught up in the creative.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yep, and our oldest son is a photographer. He does all of my photo shoots. Anything that you see outside of iPhone on my page, he's most likely shot it unless it came from a brand. So we work as a family unit. And my other two sons, they work with us on the projects. We break down, everything. We have a studio that we work out of, and we're tackling projects together, and we fly other people in to work on these projects. So anytime we can expand from 6 to 30 different, people depending on the project.
Yeah.
That's dope.
But amplified since, her. That's she's the energy booster to the shake.
Yeah, I get it, man. Congratulations on that too.
Yeah, 20 years, man.
I'm gonna slowly take the conversation a different direction.
Okay.
One of the things that I appreciate about you and our relationship, AJ always answers the phone when I hit him. Like, time could go by, I'd be like, yo, you got 5 minutes? He'd be like, yeah, literally 5. So let's jump on the phone. And he's like, sometimes he's giving me some real words of wisdom. I feel like with black men, there's a little bit of a struggle. I'm not even gonna label it, but I feel like I know I've watched you and Emery build this beautiful relationship that started small and now it's become something that's huge. But maybe speak to like just the importance of the space in between the start and where you are now, and like how two black men can actually work together to move forward. Because a lot of times we end up competing along the race. And we started together. Right. But it's beautiful what you and Em has been able to, build over time. And I think there's a lot of black creatives. I call myself a middle child leader because I'm young enough to like speak to the OGs, but then also young enough to speak to the people underneath me. But just speak to like how you've been able to manage and nurture that relationship over the last while.
That's great. I mean, Emery, he's a real OG. When I say real OG, the OGs back in the day gave you opportunity. They saw that spark in you, and they said, "Nah, I see something. Here you go." So I recognize that because we met Emery when he just got out. So a buddy of mine, I got to shout him out. His name is Leon. He's in Cleveland. He's the one that saw me doing sneakers, and we're doing something with New Balance. He said, "You know, you should do a sneaker for it." And we're like, "Who?" He's like, "Emery Jones." He's like, "Man, I'll call him right now." So he calls Emery. Emery picks up the phone, And so my buddy was in retail. He had been a buyer, and so he was floating around, and he was buying Rockaware at the time, which they were on the tail end of that. So they just give you a timeline of how long I've been knowing Emery. Man, listen, we scraped up money to go to New York to meet with Emery. That's how important it was. I know those. He sounds solid. When you hear him talking, he sounds solid. I'm like, listen, I know we gotta go there.
Yeah, go see him in real life too.
And I kid you not, our meeting was like 5 minutes long. Like we sat there across the table. I'm doing all the talking because I'm like the president of the company. I'm the artist. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. Whatever. I'm giving my spiel. Emery said this. He was like, "I'm with you." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, but we gonna do this." He was like, no, you don't get it. He's like,
"You good?"
I'm good. He was like, "You don't even gotta say no." I'm like, "But we took this long trip up here. We thought this meeting was gonna be." He's like, "Nah, I'm with you," and that's who he's been. And so I recognize that about him. What my goal is to give him something, that he can now push because he's at a different level than us. And so to me, as black men, when working with each other, it's our jobs, man. I think, we should have sessions where we sit down and tell each other who we are, and then we affirm that. And that then creates lanes and roles and, defines like what portion of the thing you're going to touch versus what I'm going to do. And now we're not competing.
It's clear direction too.
Yeah, most of the time we think we're the same things and we're not. You're like, he hold a camera way different than I hold a camera. You know what I'm saying? So we're not the same things, but that's what we've had put on us from society.
Yeah.
So I don't blame it. Very competitive
system.
But to me, it was my job because I tell people this even to this day. I don't have a job. I still work project to project when you're really looking at it. Yeah, it's chunkier money, but it's still project to project. So my job is to make people believe at all times and to be a great partner. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I amplify this look for you? So that means it can't just work for me. It got to work for Emery as well. Right. So that's how I treated the relationship, and that's how he treats it as well. Emery will tell you, he's like, "Man, I don't design." But he know what dope looks like. So if I slide something across the table, he like, "Nah, that's not it." I respect it.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that we grew up trying to emulate and be like. Like the dope boys were the ones, introducing us to the luxury brands and, the rims and the chains. Like,
those were the first role models.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So, I ain't never went in no store and saw this stuff. I saw it on them first. So to me, I respect that about him, that he came first, that he has, a great name, and that he's built up his relationships and kept those things. So I honor that in giving him something that he could be proud of to say that, hey, I put my certified stamp of approval on this, because that's what we were doing together, and it's a give and go. I talk about the mixtape project. I'm side A. I do the design. I've handed off that design as a baton, almost like we're running in a relay. You don't hold on to the baton when somebody else is about to run. You're running, but you hand it off. You let it go.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm handing him a baton. Now he can say, all right, this is my leg of the race. So that's to me the best way that, to describe how we work.
But even like, and I'm just going to ask a follow-up question, like the handing of the baton, like everything sounds sweet right now. But when there's a creative differences, like how are you all getting over that and close? Like I always say the recovery is actually more important than like to get up and be happy. So it's like when you have creative differences, what do you guys do to hurry up and get over that so you can keep it pushing?
You just keep on moving. Like you keep on. So to me, like there's times where I've designed stuff and Emery's looked at it and he's like, let's go. Then there's times he's like, I don't know about it. It's getting there. Let's come back to it. And sometimes we'll just table it and we'll move on to another project because we trust each other that much. We don't force anything. Emery won't force something if it doesn't feel real, if it's not authentic. He don't even care about a timeline. I'm the same way, I like his lyric from Jay Electronica. He said something to the effect of like, he's the guy that signed all the contract and mixed the deadlines. Like, and I love that because it's like sometimes the contract, they put that ahead of authenticity. And that's the one thing me and Emery agree on in all projects is like, is it real? Is it authentic? Can you feel it? As long as we got that, we care less about numbers. We care less about all the other metrics that everybody else got. Long as we put that mixtape on and it feels that way.
It feels right.
Yeah, we're good. Because we know from there, everybody else can catch up. But, if we feel like we're forcing it, then we stop. We take a beat and you know what? I got something else. You know what I'm saying?
One thing you said to me a while ago is like, Dion, you got to make sure you release the ego when you're doing these things. So like, speak to them about that. Because that was like one of the most impactful things you ever said to me.
Man, listen, you don't know you got an ego until somebody tell you that, whatever it is you're doing ain't as good as you think it is. And to me as an artist and designer, I had to start putting on my business hat. And to me, thinking about things as a business lets you let go of ego faster. If you're in your artist bag and I'm in the studio, I got paint on my fingers. You telling me this ain't dope? You and your feelings. You know what I'm saying? But going into designer mode for me, and thinking about it as a business says, let's scale back and see how we make this the best thing for the world. Because guess what? Now there's been times that we have not agreed. And then I still move forward on a concept and it worked. But that was more so in a space where it wasn't something that we both had our names tied to. It was more of a personal idea that I was going to do for him. And then I executed it anyway in a different way. And it ended up working out. But when we're talking about business, we're coming to the table for business, there's no room for ego because you're gonna mess up the bag. You're going to mess up the timeline. It just, imagine, a whole bunch of train, pieces just crumbling on the track. Like you're messing up everything when you have that thing in the way. And I remove mine by just thinking about things prayerfully, man. I take everything back to prayer. I don't design without it. I don't move on things without it. Everything that me and Emery have worked on, I always, I'm in that mode. And sometimes, like I said, when it doesn't work, instead of thinking about it as an ego thing, it's more like maybe it just wasn't time. It's divine. Because when you take that outside of the box approach, now it's not personal no more. God said it one time because the idea wasn't there, the execution wasn't there, but when I sent him these mixtapes, he was like, "Let's go." Know what I'm saying? So
the connection happened.
The
one
connection
time.
is there, and that's you just got to have a give and go with the whole concept of working with somebody who is you're passing the baton to, and who's giving you an opportunity. I don't take that light.
Well, and I think you touched on this even earlier, and I just want to emphasize it is you scraped up money to have a 5-minute meeting. And so I think a lot of times, even for those who are listening to this podcast, is what will you sacrifice? Because at the time, now, when you look at where you are today, the outcome outweighs the cost.
Absolutely. We were in New York for a whole week and eating off of $75. Like we had to catch the train.
Yeah.
We had a meeting with VH1 because we just did a shoe, and we were just trying to like, all right, let's have this meeting. Let's meet with Emery. Like we're trying to do as much as we could while we're in New York. And a buddy of mine who's in Cleveland, Alan Bozeman, he sponsored the rest of the trip because almost midway, that money we were waiting on a check from a brand, you know, and you know they with the 30 days stuff.
Yeah.
But we're in New York, we ain't gonna get the check anyway because we're not even in Cleveland to get it. So we like, bro, we need cash. So he flew up there, funded the rest of the trip so that we could actually have this experience. And it was just teamwork, man. It was a collaboration. It's once again removing egos and saying, this is what I have to offer to the table. And we were able to get a lot done that week, even though we didn't have. Like I said, you know, to me, growing up without, that's what God was teaching me. It was like, it's not about what you don't have. What do you have? You know, and can you bring value to that? So as long as we were in New York, we were cool. We gonna make something pop. But a lot of people don't want to think about it like that. Like they think it just happens because you met the right person and it pops off.
Yeah.
In the midst of doing things for top celebrities, me and my family were about to be displaced in Cleveland at one point. Like, you know, we're losing
Talk
our
about
home.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so while you're looking at one point and you're like, man, you got shoes on this person, that person. I'm like, the dude just popped up like, I'm about to call the sheriffs because you ain't paid the bill in 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not about what you see, man. It's a grind, it's consistency, but it's also just making sure you're in the right lane. Is your passion, you know, aligned with purpose? And I think sometimes, you know, for some of us, you know, I always talk about this example. American Idol was one of those funny shows where they made fun of the people who couldn't really sing that. But some of those people, like you think like some of it's like a joke and they came on there to be funny. But then some of those people, you look in their eyes, they actually thought they could sing.
Yeah, they were for real.
They're like, no, bro, I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
And they were trash.
Yeah.
And so to me, like, I never wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be going so hard in the direction to prove people wrong that I can't even hear myself or see myself where I'm derailing everything. So that's where that aligning the purpose and the passion for me makes sense. And then also just being passionate about what works. Shoot, at one point, you know, I told God, I was like, it seems like everything in my genius mind that I'm coming up with, it's not working. It's almost like I'm too smart.
Yeah. They don't get it.
So smart it ain't working. So I'm like, I'll work at Walmart. Like, whatever you want me to do, I just want to be able to provide. I don't want my family to feel like I felt as a kid, like, I don't know where I'm going to stay. You know, we're moving from crib to crib to crib. You know, our aunt give you that look like, you in my house again? You know, I didn't want that for my family. And when I gave up and put my hands up and was like, all right, I'm going to do whatever it is you tell me to. You tell me go cut some yards or whatever. That's when God was like, all right, you ready?
I love it.
Yeah.
You surrender.
Yep.
So,
Go
I'm sorry.
ahead,
I know you've worked on a multitude of projects. I mean, you've listed some of them, and you just recently have a release as well with Puma. But I have to ask, what has been your favorite project or favorite brand to work with?
All right. That's a double barrel gun right there. You know, because to me it's like favorite brand and favorite project might not even be the same.
Which is fine. I would love to hear both.
So, I would say for the most part, favorite project. Oh man. Okay, so
I feel like you have to do like top three because like
okay,
right,
then okay,
yeah,
okay,
there's
top
I feel
three.
like because that's too much. I feel like you have to do your top three.
Right. Yeah. So favorite project was Saks Fifth Avenue and Puma. The team was seamless that helped me on that project. Shout out to them. They made everything run smooth. The event looked amazing. My name was on the floor in Saks Fifth Avenue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was the first time this is happening, you know, and this is a store in New York. I don't live in New York, but I'm doing this store in New York and people showed up. You know, we had a great host. It was, I hate to use this word, but it was a vibe. Yeah, that was my favorite project as far as just like end to end seamless, and just how it ended up showing me that I can do things at a different level. Next after that is the mixtape project, of course. Like mixtape project was only supposed to be 36 pairs of shoes at Complex Con. And Emory calls, at the time, to be transparent, we had went past without talking, and his number changed. So I didn't even have his new number. So when he called, I didn't even know the number. I was just like, oh, snap. Because when you got OGs, you don't waste those Rolodex moments. You know what I'm saying? You save it, So he's hitting me up. He's like, yo, send me a pair, and make sure you send that other pair, Everybody know what the other pair is. So I'm like, okay. But Puma wanted to give me a hard time. Like they were like, the people over that project, they didn't want to give up any other pairs of shoes. And my guy Ian called me. He was like, man, listen, send it. He was like, I don't care what they say, send it. Emory pops up at Complex Con with the shoes on. We got a line wrapped around the booth. The shoes sell out. Emory's, everybody's cleaning their pages and stuff. But this post had 40,000, I want to say it was like, was it 40,000 likes? And then like the comments were in the thousands. And I'm saying this is not everybody got blue check era.
Yeah.
But when I tell you it was like blue checks everywhere, DJ Khaled, I need a pair. He's a Jordan guy. You know what I'm saying? So it was all of that created that energy. And Emory was like, all right, we're going to walk this down. Let's do a friends and family version. So here's this opportunity again. I give him a baton. He runs with it. He comes around the track and he's like, here you go. Here's another opportunity. So we do these friends and family pairs and we got them on the who's who. I mean, Jadakiss wearing them on stage. Wow. You got Raekwon, rocking them. Bun B got a pair. Jay got a pair. He's wearing them at a game again, which was crazy because the first shoe that me and Emory did, he wore at a game. So it was like, that was full circle. And it was just Meek Mill wore on Ellen. And you can't get these looks.
How does that make you feel?
Most of the time, to be honest, I don't know how to feel. Because what I've trained myself to do is like love the results, but not fall in love with the moment. Because to me, like if I sit in that moment, then I'm constantly. You remember when I put shoes on? Y'all know what I did, and so
you can't look forward.
Right. Yeah. So to me, it's like I'm in love with what happened versus it just being like, let me bask in this, because that's real life when you're doing a good job. Like, I think any brand that's doing a good job, Mercedes, Porsche, all the different brands, they expect you to buy their stuff, and I think that's what we have to come to as Black creatives is understand that you are good and understand and expect that when you do something at a high level, it definitely will bring you before those types of people because that's what they want. Yeah. It's a give and go. It's a baton again, So it's like, not only does Jay-Z wear my shoe, but my shoe gives value to Jay-Z. Now that's a humbling moment where you're like, dang. So you thought this shoe was so dope that you wore it? That's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? And you're posting it, like, that's crazy. So I started looking at life like that. And I sometimes go through, iPhone gives you like these memories. And that's where, more of my feelings come out at that time, because it's like, man, you did this, that, and that, and that. And this year, like 1 year, me and the team did like almost 15,000 pairs of shoes out of our studio.
That's crazy.
While I was traveling. That was the same year I did the Saks Fifth Avenue thing. So sometimes you don't even get to enjoy because the next thing is right there. And it's like, oh, this is really a business.
Yeah, it's on to the next.
But so grateful, though. So grateful. Me and my team, we've been through a lot together, trying to hit deadlines and crazy stuff. Like, we've literally saw God move. Like, one time we had this crazy deadline, and we weren't about to hit it. We were about to be done. And I stopped everything. I was like, all right, we just need to pray because it ain't going right. We prayed. 2 minutes later, and this is real, and this happened multiple times. 2 minutes later, we get a call. Hey, you know, we're gonna have to push the project, you know, a couple months because, you know, whatever problem they were having. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. They have no clue what's going on my end, but these are the type of things that I get excited about. I'm more excited about that because it means like I'm not in this alone. You know what I'm saying?
You're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Right. It means I'm aligned, passion and purpose. So that's what I'm more excited about. So I got this Bible verse on my wrist, and it's your gifts will make room for you, you know, and bring you before kings. And it's a reminder that as long as you're doing things at the highest level that you could take it, you're executing everything that you know to do, you're gonna go there. You know, don't think about the time, just think about finishing. You know, so that's what I'm on.
And I have to ask you because I know creatives are very sensitive about their right. And you know, dealing with certain brands, I know you can come in with you know, your vision and all of these ideas, and sometimes their vision doesn't necessarily align, or it changes, or they want to dumb down. How do you navigate with those certain brands in those conversations?
So here's what I tell everybody, especially our culture, because we're so creative, our minds work so fast, and we're sharing in that moment because we're passionate.
Yeah.
Instead of sharing, we got to be able to do what we're asking the brand to do. Because I can tell you, like, I've literally forced the hand of certain brands at times because they were moving too slow. And so I did the sneaker. Like, who can do that? You know, most of the time we're like, Nike, can you please? And I'm like, let me cut this check, paint this, and put that on the gram. And now it's on sale. And they're like, oh, it does work. Because that's most of the time, you know, when you're working with brands, they're seeing it through the CAD phase, which is a drawing that they can't understand. It's not 2D. Then they're seeing the next thing. They're going to have to put money on it. And so they work backwards in their mind of, I don't want to spend all this money for this. So if they can water it down and you allow it, that's part of the process, you know? Now, I'm not saying all brands work that way or think that way, but when you bring something that you're passionate about to them, they're not going to view it as important as something that they have 100,000 units against. So they're going to naturally treat it as if it's something smaller, which means watered down. So for me, how I started navigating that after seeing it, I started saying, okay, I have to be able to tell them I could tell the story too. So I brought back my visual merchandising eye and started throwing, you know, sneaker pictures together. And you can go back as like early as 2013. I mean, 2011, I was taking sneaker pictures and holding them in my hand and doing all types of crazy stuff, just to give a different side of what they saw. And then I got into just, okay, we got to be able to do the video as well. So I started doing the research, man, and I task all of us with becoming makers. Whatever you ask them to do, please be able to do it, because they'll give you the budget. If that's one thing that I will say about the brands. If you are capable, they're going to give you the budget to do it, because now they don't have to have their team on it. That's a less of a headache they have to worry about, and they're going to get an authentic story from the creator. Yeah. So to me, like, the best thing for us is just whatever you're asking them to do, be able to do it yourself. That way, if they say no, you're not in your feelings because you're going to go do it anyway. But also be prepared to have that conversation and do things in the way that they want it done, because you can't. They're not just going to give you the budget because you say you can. You got to write up a little story. You got to send them a deck. You got to give them a vision board. You know, learn the languages that they speak. And now you can confidently go in there, get the bag for production or whatever the idea is, but also get another bag for telling good stories.
Yeah, when AJ and I were speaking earlier, one of the things, and I wrote it down for me to take away, but you said you have to become what you aren't.
Yes.
And so basically making sure that you're taking the time to do the research, you know, not, you know, a lot of people think you're just supposed to stay in your lane as a creative, but you want to learn all the different parts of the business.
Right.
So, you know, when you walk in the room,
yeah,
we can have a conversation.
I mean, listen, how could you manage your team? Your business blows up and you know nothing about these other areas, now you have to pay somebody else who may not have their vision aligned with yours, and they have to align with the creative. It's just, so my goal is to not even micromanage, but know everything. That way, if my videographer is sick, I can go in there and I'll shoot that myself. You see me in there, with my gimbal, and I'm, getting it in, with an iPhone. I've shot many brand videos with an iPhone, believe it or not, in the gimbal. And they knew it too. So it wasn't even like I was tricking them. I'm like, listen, it's a shot on an iPhone, right? So, but you have to become what you aren't. Know what you're good at. And then start looking at the lay of the land and seeing where the leaks are. And to me, the biggest leaks in, our collabs are always in the end. We get this dope product, we get it to the table, and then the marketing falls flat. And you're like, man, that was not how I saw this going. So if you can patch that hole with being able to say, hey, said brand, here's my vision for it, and this is how I can execute. Here's the deliverables. Can you put a budget against this? Because you're going to do it anyway. And my budget that I'm going to take is probably going to be less than half of what you're going to pay some agency that's going to tell a story that's not even true to this, that I won't even want to post. So most of the time I would say, if you can, become what you aren't by doing the research and understanding, the lay of the land. And you'll find yourself in more capable spaces, being the person that people are looking at like, man, you really doing it, And I am.
So my last question for you that I ask everybody that comes on the podcast, I call it tunnel talk. So like there's the AJ who, family man in the cut. Then there's the AJ who comes through and smashes shit. He's laughing because, right? The space in between, like, family man to, like, it's like a tunnel. So you're about to walk through it and be like, I'm about to murder this project.
Right.
What's that conversation that you have with yourself when you're walking through the tunnel from like, I'm, the husband, father, homie to, oh, they think I'm slipping.
What did the dude say? The gladiator. Are you not entertained? It's like, this is why we're here.
Right.
And you have to remind yourself that at every level, because the ask gets greater. Like, people say it all the time. They're like, man, you just keep on going up and up and up. It's like, I don't even view it that way. I view it as that I'm consistently finishing what I'm doing conceptually every time. So now that produces what you feel like is an up effect. I'm just walking in a line. So this up idea we get afraid of. And we're like, oh, I'm up here now. Where are you at? You're not up nowhere. You're walking straight. You know what I'm saying?
You're still on the same level.
But execution-wise, this new ask, you have to kill it just like you did the last thing. And to me, sometimes where we fall flat is that we don't feel like we know something is missing. Listen, I don't turn nothing in if I feel like it's missing, if it's not done. I always tell my team, and they started getting this too. I'm like, when I'm done with a shoe, it's quiet. Like, there's no more noise. There's nothing telling me that I need to do this or tweak that. So I look for that silence in everything, after it's done. Because to me, like, if it's still screaming, you didn't kill it.
Yeah, I like that. There's no more noise. I like that.
Yeah. So to me, like, that's what I consistently remind myself, is that I'm here for a reason. I've been called to it, because you can definitely get like, man, this is a whole new arena. Like, this shoe that we're talking about, the mixtape, went from being a custom to the first custom to be mass produced by a brand.
Right.
That's a different stage, and you can easily be like, oh, it's about selling shoes. No, it's not about selling shoes. It's about, did you tell the story correctly? Did you get out there and let people know what this was about, and that it was something that was authentic? And to me, that's what I remind myself to do every time, and that keeps me stable, and it keeps my family understanding what our family goal is. Like, and I feel like I killed it if I did that.
That's the energy.
Yep.
You just talked about the mixtapes. I know you brought some. You should talk about it a little.
Absolutely. So I brought a friends and family pair. I'm so sorry I did not.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yes, exactly. We're gonna get her together.
Because it needs some explanation, although it's just a dope shoe.
Yeah, so, excuse the box a little bit. Got banged up in transit, but I brought my brother the Friends and Family pair, which is based off of the original that we dropped 5 years ago at Complex Con, which this colorway, at the time when we talk about custom, which I call aftermarket embellishment, the original shoe that we used for the mixtape actually came with all of the colors except for the green and the black on it. It had gray in the place of the black, and it had it was white on the side, so the blue existed and everything. But I just felt like, man, in order to make it a 90s theme, you had cross colors in the 90s. You had so many different colors that were popping. And I even went back and told a story in my highlights. There's a story about the fashion around that time. And so this shoe is based on the one that we did, the custom of that, went to Friends and Family and, started these viral moments. And I'm gifting my brother with it. But what makes this one different is that it's a different RSX, so it's a lot chunkier if you see this model. Some of the lines are the same, but some of them are a little bit different, which I actually think this shoe is more comfortable than the first one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because they perfected the chunkiness of the sole. The first shoe, the wedge of it made you need an extra size up, but with this one, it sits more balanced.
It's perfect. Right, gotcha.
Yeah, and it gives you at least like 1.5 inches. So I'm like 6'1" in these. So I favor these. This design was done to mimic a few things. If you look at the shoe and you're seeing the taping on the side, that's to mimic the motion of the tape actually going through the wheel. So I placed it here strategically and use a lenticular graphic to actually give it motion. So when I move it back and forth, you actually get, it's almost like something's moving through.
That's dope.
Right.
And then this material here was used to mimic the felt that you had. The vinyl here, was because we used vinyl first. The DJ still scratch. On this shoe, it's blue, but on the gray pair, this is actually black. And if you look close at the lines, I'm going to let you get in there. It's actually put lines in it like a vinyl. So that's really what that is.
The record itself.
Like the record itself. Yeah, so that was another thing we wanted to add. And then the tongue of each shoe actually has like this material that you can write on, because when we made mixtapes, it was personal. It's like, this is my get it in mixtape, so you can write whatever you want to write on the tongue, the side A and side B. And then my logo is on side A. Also, the tag with the legitimate tech experience, which Roc Nation made a mixtape for the mixtape. I like saying that.
Wow.
Which is crazy with all of these amazing new artists. And when you buy the shoes, you actually get the mixtape. So what you do is you take your phone and tap it to this tag, and it then pulls up a prompt that allows you to put your email in.
That is just so cool.
Once you do that, it'll unlock the experience, and you'll have a record player. You'll have access to the documentaries that we've done, the videos.
It's a whole journey.
It's a whole journey, exactly. And you get updated. We're updating it at the point where we dropped. We were updating it like bi-weekly.
Oh, wow.
So we would hit people online and say, hey, there's a new drop. When we were dropping more songs, there's a new drop. They get access to it that way. So we're creating an experience in the digital world. Instead of just doing spinning NFTs, we wanted to give people something that they can go to and say, man, this is dope, and it's actually something I can interact with.
It's a different way to look at footwear, that's for sure. And
then one of the other details, we had to put the aux cords on there. I mean, to have the headphone jacks, the aux cord, that whole feel to it, to me was great, instead of using a lace Dubray. And you can even write on the insole on the inside as well.
I missed all this.
This
is awesome.
Yeah, that's why I wanted him to explain it, because you'll miss it.
And AJ, I mean, I have to ask, because I know I've heard and just through conversation, you don't even pay attention to fashion trends, and that you lead versus follow. So my question for you, because we are definitely in this social media world right? How do you stay authentic and lead in this industry?
I like that question. I like to stay authentic by doing things that you can see moves the needle.
Yeah.
To me, if I go on trend, then it's just in a wave already. You're already seeing that motion. So I don't think you really do anything. But to see, a salmon swimming upstream, that's a whole different experience. And so to me, I've working in that store back in the day and being able to do shoes and it making his jersey sell is what I've become in fashion. It's like I can take something that you say isn't cool anymore. I'll never forget when they said the NASCAR jackets were out. They were like, oh, nobody wears those no more. I was like, perfect, I'm going to wear mine.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh, they back now? They back? So to me, like, that's what I'm here to do is, like, disrupt. And I think proper disruption means that you design something that is now a conversation. And I don't think that we're here to be, as creative as we are, just to do something that we've already seen. How can you expect for whatever you are doing to work? How is it going to be successful? I saw it already. So, to me, you want true success, you have to go through the pain of being first. You have to go through, the trials of being a trailblazer and cutting the weeds back from making the path because it's not just about you. It's about creating another lane for somebody else. I never wanted it to just be about me when it came to shoes and custom design. When I started working with these companies, other people started being able to work with the company. So I was one of the first to work with Foot Locker and put custom shoes in a Foot Locker store, which is still crazy to me. But then Mosh and all these other guys, like, they started reaching out. So I made it cool for them because, believe it or not, customizers were like, big box stores aren't cool, and Foot Locker was like, we want to work with more people like that. So to me, you got to be willing to go through those fires and be first. And to me, that's how I stay original. It's like, I'm always comparing stuff to music too. So Lupe has this one lyric, and he's like, "Did you improve on the design? Did you make something new?" And so to me, even if you were mimicking or going after something that previously existed, did you improve on it? Did you actually make something new? Because this shoe is paying homage to the mixtape, but we made you see it in a different light for 2023. And now, my kids are like, this is dope, which they don't know nothing about side A and side B.
Sure don't.
You know what I'm saying? But we're not
here.
able to have that conversation because I made it something that they can absorb, and I made it a story that's cool for them to tell their friends. And now you see the kids that love retro stuff. They like, oh, this is retro. I could get, so that's what I say. If you are gonna attempt to do something that's been done or you're inspired by, you should be able to give it a fresh approach if you're trying to be successful.
I feel like I need to ask this question for people listening. You mentioned working with Foot and corporations. What would be 3 things you want creatives to know or to prepare for? Because everyone has aspirations. I want to work with Foot like AJ. It's like, it's not that easy though. Right? Where it's like, what are 3 things you think creatives need to know or prepare for when you start rocking and rolling with these brands and corporations?
Be prepared for it to take longer than you expected. I pitched Foot Locker on Thundercats, and I didn't do anything with it until 2 years later. I didn't get a check until 2.5 years later. Be prepared to work up front and get paid later.
Yes, sir.
Unless you're like me, which is like, I'm not moving. I'm gonna squeeze y'all because I'm like, I need half up front right now.
I need some bread up front.
Yeah, because they want it tomorrow. I need it today. Then so I took that approach, and it was ballsy because I felt like it was a new space. They were asking me to do a lot of things that were just almost impossible. They asked me to do like my very first project with Foot Locker was like 800 pairs of shoes in 2 weeks. They're like, "Can you do that?" I'm like, yes. I didn't know how. I didn't know how, but I knew that this is what I prayed for. Here it is again.
We'll figure it out.
Right. So, and so I was able to, because they had that style, I was able to say, listen, I need to be paid. Me and my team, we need it right now. So they were able to give me half. But if you are not doing what I was doing, you have to be prepared for everything to take longer. And then also be prepared for the storytelling portion to, that's the most heartbreaking part about it, and it's because they, like I said, you have to understand the nature of the companies. They hire outside entities to do this for them. So it's not necessarily them. Like I hear people online saying, Nike stole my idea. Nike didn't steal your idea. It was someone who worked in marketing that probably saw your stuff and bid it. And now they work at Nike, but it's not Nike's not,
it's not
intentionally.
Nike. Yeah.
So we often put it on the companies, but what you have to understand how they work. Nike even has an agency that handles all their stuff, and then they hire, trickle down effect. And so in knowing that, I think we should be prepared to be one of those agencies that they want to hire. Like, forget the heartbreak. You don't got to go through it. I went through it, so you don't got to go through it.
Right. That's important right there.
Yeah. But you should know how it goes because that's where, and it's, even to this day, there are, just unexpected things where you're just like, dang, that didn't go how
you seen it.
Right. And so it just reiterates to me and, deepens the impression, continue to drive away the conversation of not just the design, but getting the ability to tell the story, in your narrative and making sure that that's felt. So those are the three things,
So for my final question is, I want to know what is next for Alexander John.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a perfect question.
I like that.
That's the outro.
Yeah. So what's next for me is what came previously. I'm an artist, You're about to see canvas art. Even in my clothing. So I have clothing that's dropping very soon. It's coming from a perspective of studio works.
Okay.
So I was hurt when Virgil died. He was one of the great disruptors to me. That was doing it in a refreshing way. And I didn't get down with everything that he did, but he was good at it. And it was just authentically him. So his birthday, I think, was like a day after mine or something like that. And I felt like, man, we were in the same vein a lot of times with certain things that we wanted to do, writing on shoes and, just making things more tangible and like playful, but yet showing the seriousness in the concept and the structure of the collab. So for me, that's where I'm going. I don't see anybody picking up that torch. And he left it here for us. He said it many times. He's like, listen, I'm doing this for y'all. So I feel like it's my duty as a creative. He reposted a shoe and that was it. Like, he died like a week after he reposted a shoe that I did. Yeah, so I took one of his dunks and I just dyed it. I dip dyed him blue. And I loved the hue of blue it was. And then he ended up reposting it and liking it or whatever. And I was just like, oh, we're going to work together. And then he died like a couple weeks later. And so it was like, I've never met him, never had a conversation, but because I was following his works as he's one of the greats, I was like, I got to pick up this torch of creating goods that are inspiring others to be creative and to use their creative freedom. So you'll see T-shirts that I do and hats that I put out that are one of ones and, they're studio works. You'll see collaborations with brands that are about conversations that we need to have. I feel like the side A to my collabs might have been based in good storytelling, but the product design may have been more towards vanity than conversation, And so I want to make things that are helpful for our communities, because we have a very creative, but we have a hurting community. How can we create a line of clothing that says, you're my brother from across the street, because we're experiencing, by our own hands just a lot. And then we got the world that's doing a lot to us too. So to me, like, my goal now is to create value for us, because to me, I tell my sons, I feel like the cops and, what we've witnessed, they feel like nobody cares about those people, and that's why they could do that to them. So I want y'all to look like somebody cares about you. You got to walk around, I tell them this, I'm like, you got to walk around looking like somebody love you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they will ragdoll you in the street. And we already got our own brothers against us because we think we in the same lane.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a brand coming up that I'm getting ready to do called Killer Whales. And the concept of Killer Whales, I was trying to, improve on the design. So I saw Bape, right? I'm like, Bape is dope. They got all this stuff. Nego did all this stuff. But I don't know what it means. Ape shall never kill ape. I'm like, I don't know. And black people and monkeys, I don't like that conversation. So, but I was like, it's still dope. I love the camos and everything. So I was looking for ammo I could do a camo out of, and I found the Killer Whale. I'm like, okay, great. It has white, it has black, and so I can play with that concept. But guys, like, look more into it. So I look more into it. Killer whales are the apex predator of the sea. It's not the shark. Everybody always says shark is crazy. No, killer whales hunt and eat sharks. But they do it together. So I started getting these themes, and then so the killer whale mates with the female, and then they're together for life. So I'm like, this is dope. Then I found out they speak 17 different dialects, so they speak slang amongst their own pods.
Wow.
So they another pack of killer whales could pull up, and they're speaking their own slang with their own, and they're speaking it, but they don't eat each other. They don't cannibalize each other.
So
You'll never
it's
see
like a community.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So through that brand, I was like, this is how we can show people, even if I never do a brand, I can teach you how you should live, and you hunt and you eat together through this concept of how these killer whales work. And so they're the apex because they're not cannibalizing themselves, and they hunt and they eat together. So that's one of the brands that I'm going to bring out. Alexander John of Luxury, I have a brand coming that's more luxe, but the price points are going to be good.
Okay.
I'm gonna kill the materials.
Nice.
I'm gonna show them,
We're excited.
You don't need listen. I've been studying.
And don't leave sis out of that one, okay? Sis.
No, I got pieces on this stuff already.
Okay.
So I'll send y'all some care packages because the Alexander John stuff is going to be dropping very soon. And I'm playing with some concepts. One of them is geography, which is made up. So I love geography, and I love graffiti. So instead of putting color into the outline that I did, I wanted to show how, the concept of graffiti and the 3D and the, crazy colors, is found outside first. We're inspired by God. So there's a picture of the Blue Ridge Mountains inside of the actual outline I created. And so it's got this geographic location attached to it. So those pieces are going to be one of one because we're going to use the colors in paint splatter. So yeah, I got a lot coming. I got a lot coming for the rest of the world. And I thank y'all for asking that. And, because to me, once you do things that are polarizing, people put you in that box. It's our job. You the sneaker guy. And it's like, no, I'll be doing when you see the artwork that I do for a restaurant in Boston, you'll realize like I'm just using my creativity wherever it's needed to be able to boost brands and help continue on the opportunities for other people to come behind me.
Yeah. You were created to create. You can see it, brother.
That's it. I appreciate that.
And thank you for dropping. She hasn't said gems today. I'm super surprised.
I know. Well, whenever you asked for the first three, like what you were leaving, I was like, that's where we're going. But we appreciate all the gems that you've been dropping. And, if there's any final words, I will give you this time to be able to drop any other gems. But you've been dropping them throughout the entire
whole
podcast.
show.
Yeah.
Man.
We appreciate it.
This is where my true passion is. I know that, back in the day they would say the game is to be sold, not to be told. But I believe the reverse. I believe it is to be told at the state of our, we're in a state of emergency as a culture.
100%.
And it's because we don't know what we're capable of. And so if I tell you, then I could make people feel the same way that Cleveland made me feel about my gifts. Before there was money or anything, there was words. So, we just got to start giving each other these words, and encouraging each other to move forward in a way that helps our community, So, that's my goal. So being on this platform, y'all saying dropping gems, I've been waiting for this.
Yes.
No. I've been waiting for this. I spoke at Clark Atlanta the other day. I want to say it was last week. They invited me, and I spoke to their fashion class.
I seen that online.
And it was amazing because, HBCUs were started in the church, and they are still one of those ones that operate like that. And I have a strong faith base. So it was like I was speaking to my people, and I'm like, this is what we're here for. Like, you don't need to, so many of those young kids brought me their drawings. Listen, man, I always like to say, Professor Xavier had the first X-Men, then he had the New Mutants. Yeah. Listen, the new designers, they're thinking way out there.
Yes.
But this is where I want them to understand their powers. You can do this now. You don't got to, one girl told me, she said, I'm going to work for this brand for 5 years. I'm going to stack up. And I was like, it's not going to work like that.
Yeah,
you don't even got to do that now. If I was sent here today to talk to you, then you got to understand that you won't have to do that because God made me a maker now. So they were inspired, man. And so I think more speaking is coming up. We're doing something at the, I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but the Mocha in Cleveland.
Oh, okay, so you're going back there. Okay.
Yeah, we're going back to Cleveland
Right.
to inspire. It's down the street from the school that I went to. And so that's big. The Museum of Contemporary Art. I mean, like I said, to me, that path, we're picking up that torch where Virgil left off with making intentional goods, man, that the community can be inspired off of.
That's
Awesome.
dope.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we greatly appreciate you being here with us on Blacklights Podcast, where we are here to light the path forward. And you have definitely blessed me in an unimaginable way. So I just want to thank you personally for your time today.
Before you jump, I have to give a shout out to Corey James. Homie that was at a team, we ain't even gonna name it,
Right.
because he connected us a while ago, and we've had a really cool relationship, almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
Shout out to Amazon Music for supporting the podcast, empowering the message. FDRA, Pencil Lewis College. I'm gonna make sure we pay our bills.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, but truly, it was amazing having you on the show today, and thanks for sharing all these gems, as LaShae calls it.
Man, glad to be here.
And of course, we're gonna pay attention to all the amazing work that you got coming in the future. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Yes, sir.
Thank